On this edition of FedGov Today with Francis Rose, who's going to win the AI race?
The organization and the people who understand operations and understand AI technology and how that applies to those operations are going to be the ones that are in a position of advantage.
Former DISA Director Bob Skinner on FedGov Today in just a moment. First, though, an important FedGov Today TV is coming Sunday, December 7th. You'll go with me to the Pentagon for the first long-form TV interview with the Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Daryl Caudle. That's this coming Sunday, December 7th, 10:30 a.m. on ABC7 in Washington and on the FedGov Today YouTube channel. The Defense Information Systems Agency will roll out its 2025 forecast to industry next week. The agency says industry will get, quote, valuable insights into DISA's strategic direction, capability requirements, and opportunities to collaborate in delivering innovative solutions. Lieutenant General Robert Skinner, U.S. Air Force retired, is former director of DISA. Bob, welcome. It's great to see you. What did you want to convey to industry when you were DISA director and you appeared at these industry opportunities? Welcome, Bob.
Thanks, Francis, and always good to be part of your productions. I'll tell you, I always go back to a quote by Wayne Gretzky, right? Who said, good players skate to where the puck is, great players skate to where the puck is going to be. And that's really what Forecast to Industry is all about. It is an opportunity to continue the partnership that DISA has with all the different companies and industry and really get at here are the problems, the challenges, and the opportunities that we have coming up over the next few years. And it allows industry to better posture themselves to help partner with DISA to tackle those problems. So that's really, so you take the strategy that the agency has, which usually covers a few years, and you really break it down in over the next year. Here are the key objectives that they want to achieve. Here's some of the challenges that they are dealing with, right? And you can look at the administration, you can look at all the things that have gone on over the last year, and really identify some of those challenges and how they relate to DISA themselves, but more importantly to the warfighter, right? Because at the end of the day, this is about the warfighter. How do we maintain lethality? And you do that through the combat support agency that we know of as DISA.
It strikes me that an event like this becomes even more important with Secretary Hegseth's focus now on outcomes in contracting and trying to get away from requirements writing in the traditional sense and get more to problem statements. Is that a fair observation on my part?
Yes, it is. Yeah, because at the end of the day, the more concise and precise that you can be, the more that helps industry really get at those outcomes. I will tell you though, it's a yin and a yang, right? Because it doesn't matter how precise, how concise, or how big you have the requirements, they're never going to be right. Right. And we know that. But this collaboration between industry and the agency, industry and the government is really where those requirements can be refined to enable outcomes, but just as important, to enable the innovative nature that the U.S. companies have to satisfy those requirements.
You appeared on FedGov Today a number of times when you were DISA director. And by the way, we were teasing each other before we turned the recorder on that you are still the record holder of most number of appearances on the show as a sitting official. And each time you and I would talk a little bit, at least, I went back and checked about this idea of establishing problem sets rather than requirements. And that's something that you tried to move the agency to during your tenure there. What did you determine were the markers of success in starting with a problem statement and then getting an outcome that was what you wanted from the industry partners that you used?
Yeah, and I just I do take pride in that mantra and that mantle of, and I hope that we can continue these type of conversations.
That's what I'm shooting for.
Francis, at the end of the day, this is all about putting the United States and the U.S. military and our combatant commands, our agencies, and our services in a position of advantage, and making them as strong as they can be at any point in time. But also you have to be resilient, right? Because at the end of the day, an enemy or an adversary has a vote in these things. And so to me, this really is about how can you have the problem, industry helps solve it, and then the outcome is that the problem is solved, and it's solved in an innovative way. It's solved in an effective way, which includes efficiency. Because then you're also taking into account the taxpayer dollar, right? Because at the end of the day, we all we report to the taxpayer in a sense. And so we want to make sure that all these solutions are ensuring that the requirements are taken care of, right? The problem is solved, but also in the most economical and innovative way.
What's your sense of how artificial intelligence is changing all of those technology areas that you and I talked about when you were at DISA, the cloud and cybersecurity and all of the things that DISA has purvey over? What kind of impact do you think artificial intelligence is having on the way that people deliver those capabilities, or the way those capabilities deliver capacity for warfighters with AI and so on?
I'll tell you, AI is fundamentally changing almost every part of our lives. It's changing every part of our missions. And so to me, the organization and the people who understand operations and understand AI technology and how that applies to those operations are going to be the ones that are in a position of advantage. Because I will tell you, almost every technology today has some form of AI embedded in it. Every AI or every technology also has AI available to help the user, the mission partner, the administrator leverage that technology. Because some of the AI you don't even know about. It's just happening behind the scenes, and that's great news. But also AI allows an adversary to be more effective and capable because it allows them to be better than what they would normally be. And so to me, this is all about offense and defense and how we can make sure that that we stay ahead of that no matter what our mission profile says.
The adversary's advantage comes from, obviously, them thinking that they can outsmart or get ahead of the technology that they're up against from us. What conceptually, what strategically should one think about in that equation? And is it reasonable to think that at some point in time we can get ahead of the other guy, or am I not thinking about it the right way, Bob?
Yeah, so I think AI allows you to be more agile and more scalable. And also it offers you an opportunity to be more expertise related than what you normally would. And so I think that the organization and the missions and the teams who are able to take the AI with the innovative spirit that we have, we talked about this multiple times on our previous shows, of where the innovative spirit of the United States is what I am most proud of, and know that we will continue to be ahead of the adversary. So take that innovative spirit, that creativity, that critical thinking, and bringing that AI to bear on the problems is how we're going to stay ahead of the adversary. Most of the other adversaries, they aren't as creative. I don't think they aren't as innovative, and they aren't as critical thinkers. And so therefore, I think they will continue to be behind. AI will enable them to be faster, to be more scalable, but not to the extent that we are in the United States.
It's interesting that you put it that way, because that makes me recall a conversation I had with Bob Work a long time ago on the previous television show. And he said, we have to remember that, and he was talking about China in particular, but I think it applies to the entire spectrum of adversaries. So we have to remember they're not 10 feet tall, that they're people like us, and they have structures like us, and they have bureaucracies like us. And we shouldn't automatically assume that just because they're them, that they're destined to catch up with us or surpass us. And it sounds like that innovative spirit that you're referring to, Bob, is one of the components there in how we can maintain an advantage.
Yes, 100%. I will offer that I think China has more scale than we do when it comes to cyber activity, when it comes to the leveraging of the technology. But I think the big difference is if you bring the innovative spirit, as I keep calling it, with the industry and the government, but just as important, our allies and partners, right? Because at the end of the day, China is more singular in nature, whereas we have through our allies and partners, and the relationship with academia, the relationship with industry, really brings to bear all this creative knowledge and creative understanding and critical thinking that, to me, will continue to put us ahead. Now, as you know, we can't rest on our laurels, And so we have to still maintain that spirit driving forward. And so anything that we can do to inhibit the bureaucracy to enable that is important.
Once these technologies exist and once an agency, an organization in government becomes aware of them, what do you see in the acquisition reforms that Secretary Hegseth talked about a couple of weeks ago that are rolling out now from the department that will help an organization like DISA get a hold of those technologies faster the way that you just described the need?
Yeah, well, one of the ways is through OTAs, right? Other transactional authorities. What they're really trying to do, and as you know, right, we've been at acquisition reform for decades now, and we have made some progress. It's just not where it needs to be. And so this really comes down to how are you simplifying the process in place to leverage other transactional authorities to enable contracts in a more simplified manner to these organizations. The second thing is proof of concepts. From my understanding, the way we're trying to work with these acquisition is to enable a faster way of having proof of concepts to then be able to go from the proof of concept to actual deployment and implementation. So what we're really trying to do is streamline all those processes in place. Now, the problem we're going to have right now is the reductions in the contracting workforce is going to put a damper on the bandwidth for these type of technologies and these type of companies being able to leverage government contracts. So that's something that I'm hoping that these changes in the acquisition reforms, which, oh, by the way, some of it requires law changes, is really going to help us streamline that to where we can take advantage even though the workforce is reduced.
Bob, it's always great to talk to you, and you've kept your record intact as being the most number of appearances on FedGov Today. So congratulations on that.
Thanks, Francis. Always good to talk with you.
You can read more about all the things Bob and I talked about on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. FedGov Today TV is coming to the American Forces Network. Starting this coming week, you'll see FedGov Today TV on military installations, ships at sea, and embassies around the world. You can read more about FedGov Today on AFN on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. The FedGov Today podcast returns Thursday with former DHS CIO Richard Spires. He'll tell you what's ahead for transforming your technology posture with 2026 right around the corner. You follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on the FedGov Today YouTube channel, or on demand at fedgovtoday.com. I'm Francis Rose. I'll talk to you then. Thanks for listening.